I hope what you heard today has left you inspired and a little bit more thoughtful about how individually and collectively we can work together to transform the future of Texas education. As my colleague George Tang mentioned this morning, we really look forward to this event. This is our fourth event of this type of leadership forum, and bringing together leaders from policy and education and higher education and philanthropy and business. Just really appreciate you guys being here today at this busy time of year. I'll tell you, if there's one thing we've learned since 2004 at First Texas High School Project and now Educate Texas, that there's no single bullet. There's no single silver bullet. So part of what we're trying to do over the course of this event is not say there's any one perfect thing that's going to solve the challenges or create more hope in public and higher education, but try to show you a series of interventions and analysis and data. And part of how we're thinking about this is there are things that we know that work that we need to replicate and scale. There's areas where we're still trying to figure out how to crack the code, so we need to keep innovating and doing R&D. And then there's also, I think, a really important role about a hub and a convener and a place where these different ideas can come together. I think particularly as we're looking at K-12 and higher education. The rest of the program this evening, I'm going to spend about 20 minutes hitting some of the highlights from what we've accomplished as an organization in 2012, some of the things we're going to be looking at in 2013. We're going to have a really exciting panel with State Senator Kel Seliger, Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings, and SREB President Dave Spence. We just found out that unfortunately former TEA Commissioner Michael Williams has the flu, so he's not going to be with us this evening, but we will soldier on. And I know a little bit about having the flu this week, so I'm sympathetic with him. So let me get into sort of the overview of the year. The first thing I want to talk about is what we've accomplished in college-ready standards and practices, thanks to our 8-year-old public-private partnership with Texas Education Agency, the legislature, the governor's office, in the creation of early college high schools and Texas Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math T-STEM academies. We started out with 4 in 2004. Now there's 124 campuses across the state, serving almost 50,000 students. We've learned a lot about project-based learning and the integration of technology in STEM classrooms. We've learned a lot about rigorous dual credit, quality professional development, and sort of the practical integration of how you get K-12 and higher ed and work together. We're really, really pleased about what the data is showing. If we go to the next slide, out of these approximately 50,000 students, roughly 70% are African American and Hispanic, 70% are economically disadvantaged. And we are really making progress in terms of these students outperforming the state average. What we have on the screen is just one of the data points in math, where 81% of the early college students and 78% of the T-STEM students are outperforming the state average of 66%. Next slide, please. And then most importantly, we have some initial data, thanks to our friend and partner, Commissioner Raymond Paredes at the Higher Ed Coordinating Board, that the graduates that are starting to come out of these 124 campuses are enrolling in post-secondary education at higher rates than their peers. 13 to 14% higher overall for both 2-year and 4-year colleges in the aggregate. And 21 to 27% going directly to 4-year colleges and universities. This is not all 50,000 kids. This is a subset. All these schools started at different times. But we're really proud that we're starting to see great results, not just of student achievement while they're in these campuses, but as they're going on to college. And I want to tell you about one student. One of the great things I get to do is when I go and give a speech like this in an area, I get to sometimes visit one of the schools ahead of time. There's a student named Priscilla, who's at Trans Mountain Early College High School in El Paso, which is a partnership between El Paso ISD and El Paso Community College district. Priscilla always had an interest in education, but it was really her 10th grade math class and her amazing teacher that sort of flipped the switch for her about math. Priscilla is the first person in her family to go to college. Neither of her parents graduated high school. So by the time she reached 11th grade, Priscilla was on the fast track for success. At the end of her junior year in high school, she actually graduated high school with an associate's degree from El Paso Community College before she graduated high school. And when you go to El Paso Community College graduation, and I was fortunate enough to go this December, you're in a big auditorium. There's 1,800 students that are receiving their diploma from El Paso Community College, and there were 500 early college high school students standing up there. So Priscilla graduated from high school, and when other students her age are sophomores, she's now a senior at UTEP, majoring in math, minoring in education, and she's going back to Trans Mountain for her teacher observation. She wants to be a math teacher. So just an incredible story. So the first thing we want to do in terms of these 124 campuses and these 50,000 students is through the public-private partnership, through many of you in this room, is to make sure that these students and these teachers continue to survive and thrive. That these 50,000 students, these 124 campuses, continue beyond anything we're doing as an organization. The second thing we're doing is we're trying to take what works at the campus level and scale it across districts. In places like Texarkana, I saw Superintendent Paul Norton there, Clint, ISD, Brownsville, Far San Juan Alamo. We're working to take what's worked at these individual STEM and early college high schools and scale them across the entire district. We were really fortunate to partner with the Texas Instruments Foundation in a district of about 6,000 students outside Dallas, Lancaster ISD, where we are scaling what works in individual early college high schools across the entire Lancaster ISD. And I want to acknowledge and thank Ann Paul McCall and the Texas Instruments Foundation for their almost $5 million grant for us to work with Lancaster. Thank you, Ann. We also got some great news over the holidays from the U.S. Department of Education regarding an I-3 grant. In partnership with Jobs for the Future and Denver Public Schools, Texas is going to be sharing in about $15 million to scale early college, high school, college-ready standards and practices in Brownsville and Far San Juan Alamo. And the superintendent from Brownsville, Carl Montoya, is here tonight, and we're very appreciative. Let's have a hand for Brownsville. Another thing we've done over the last year is try to do a lot of thinking around how do we integrate technology, digital content, and data resources. The goal is to improve classroom instruction and increase personalized learning. For those of you who went to the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation breakout session earlier, you heard from some of the best thinkers out there. For any of us that have young children, I definitely identified with Mark Milliron talking about his kids, the whole digital native versus digital immigrant. Just an incredible opportunity not to have kids turn off their technology when they come to school, but how do we enlist and engage and empower them? So this fall, we launched something called T3IF, the Texas Teaching Technology Initiative Fund. I want to acknowledge and thank the Boone Foundation and CFT for funding this. We're going to be working with 4 school districts and 1 charter where they are developing plans to try to really make concrete a lot of the ideas and the opportunities out there in next gen or blended learning. We're very excited about that. We've also continued to partner with the Texas Education Agency in 2 of their initiatives in next gen and blended learning, Project Share, which has now got a majority of teachers signed up in the state of Texas, and the High Performing Schools Consortium, which used to be called the TASA Visioning Institute, which is a series of school districts that are looking at next gen and blended learning. So we're really excited about being more active in the next gen blended learning space. It was We are really focused on continuing what we've done in STEM education. I think what we did well in our STEM focus, we exceeded that and have 65. What we didn't do was think back about what the finish line should be, not just graduating high school, but graduating with a 4-year, 2-year, or technical school degree in STEM education. So what we're looking at for the next 5 years in STEM is how do we integrate K-12, higher ed, and workforce development. So we're not just looking at what happens when students graduate high school, but how do we have a statewide strategy, a statewide framework where students can continue and get that STEM degree, again, whether it's 4-year, 2-year, or technical school. I want to acknowledge and thank the Battelle Memorial Institute and my friend David Burns from Columbus, Ohio, who's been a great fan and supporter, as well as TEA, the Coordinating Board, the Governor's Office, National Instruments, and we're excited about taking STEM education to the next level. There is a national conference here in Austin in June in 2013, the U.S. News STEM Solutions, and we'll be launching the new statewide STEM network and framework this June.